Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this informational session entitled What You Need to Know to Plan a Walk and Roll to School event in 2023. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Please use the chat box for questions or comments. The session is being recorded and will be posted on CDTC's YouTube channel after the session is concluded, and registrants will be notified in the post-event email with the link included. There's also going to be a feedback survey that should be posted in your web browser after the informational session is over. And if you could just take a moment to provide some feedback in that survey, that would be really appreciated. And a link to that survey is also going to be included in the email afterwards. So today's agenda, just a brief introduction. And then we're going to hear about Paige Elementary's 2022 Walk and Roll to School program. And then we'll hear about the bike safety training program from CDTC, the CDTC Walk and Roll to School Toolkit, and the bike and pedestrian safety materials order form and their our materials program through CDTC and some other resources as well. So just a little bit about CDTC. The Capital District Transportation Committee is the designated MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Albany, Schenectady, Troy, and Saratoga Springs metropolitan areas. CDTC's Policy Board and Planning Committee oversee allocation of federal surface transportation funds, and they are supported by a team of staff that also provides planning and programming support for communities throughout the region related to land use planning and zoning, bicycle pedestrian trails planning, traffic management and modeling, and much more. My name is Rima Shamia. I'm a transportation planner at CDTC, and our other speaker today is Emily McDonald, who is a social worker at Paige Elementary in Schenectady. And I'm going to turn it over to Emily now. And I just need to just give me a minute to start her slides. There we go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I just want to give a brief introduction. I'm Emily. I'm a social worker. I work at Paige. I do a lot of the social emotional learning activities that we do here. I do apologize if you hear some background noise. My office is right off of the cafeteria and it's lunchtime, so it can get a little noisy. If there's anything you need me to repeat, just put it in the chat box and Rima can let me know. Next slide. So how did we start Walk and Roll at Paige? So we did 2 events here at Paige. We did one in June, which was our first one, and then one this past October. If some of you have never heard of Walk and Roll before, it's an event where students are encouraged to walk or roll to school. And when I say roll, I mean things with wheels. So bike riding using their scooter, their skateboard, roller skating, roller blading. And the purpose is really to promote healthier habits, cleaner environment, promote safety, and build community. So ways that we did that, there's really 5 steps that we took. And it was pretty quick that we were able to plan this. We picked a date. So I talked with our administration, looked at the calendar, saw what was the best date. Also, we want to keep in mind for weather. So there was a rain date there as well. Something that we did last spring was sending out a Google form to our families, just surveying how many kids we thought would be able to actually participate using a bike or scooter that they might own, or able to walk with a parent or guardian or family member. We did only get 30 responses. I think if we were to send this out this year, we would just use different methods to get the survey out. I think our parents seem to like the mass text that goes out. I think we would maybe get a better response. So just going forward, that's just an idea of something we would do. We then created the route using Google Maps, which was extremely helpful. And through the Google Forms survey, we were able to get a gist of which parents wanted to participate in helping to lead a walk and roll route. So I was able to work with, it was like 3 or 4 families that helped me create the routes that the kids would take walking or rolling. So they were very important in that process because they honestly knew the roadways a little better than me. They knew their neighborhoods. They knew which were safe roadways, which had potholes. So we were able to really collaborate around that and coordinate. So it was really safe for our students. We were then able to coordinate with Mr. Russo and our resource officers, like our safety teams, and we spoke to our local police department, and Schenectady Police Department was able to patrol some of the streets that our students were going to be utilizing when they were doing the walk and roll, and they were able to do that last spring and this fall. We just had to give them advance notice. And the biggest thing, advertise for this event. That's huge. We use a lot of social media. We use like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We use Class Dojo. We're texting our families. We're letting them know that this is happening, so it's not a surprise. So then families are able to talk with their students about it and figure out the why. Like, why are we doing this? Next slide. So going back to the why, this is just an example of a story I did on Class Dojo, and it was similar on social media, just shortened a little bit, but this really gave parents the play-by-play of what was happening that day, how students could get to school. And I'll talk about it a little more, but for the students that were not able to participate, we still made sure they could participate when they got to school. But I'll get into that a little more. But it really just gave our parents the why. It could sound very confusing saying to parents, we're just doing a walk and roll. I didn't know what that meant at first, so I had to do a little bit of research. So our why to parents included health benefits, creating an understanding on how to stay safe. So being able to utilize the stop signs, staying to the right or left, depending which way they're going. Being aware of their surrounding, and building connection with their classmates and other families in the area. And of course, being outside, it does boost their mood, and that's a great way to start the day. Next slide. So planning, there was really 2 resources, maybe 3 resources that we used. The Walk Bike to School website really helped out. You see on the screen there's an example of a poster that was able to be put out on social media all around our school, handed out to parents with flyers, and they give you all the tools there. I just needed to plug in the date, plug in my information if they had any questions. They had blurbs of what to put out to parents to explain what was happening that day for walk and roll. They had stickers. I was able to get stickers printed. Just so many resources on this website. So I highly suggest using that website. And then of course, Capital District Transportation Committee gave us so many resources. We just had to plug in our information, let them know when we needed it by. We got posters. I'm not sure if you can see me, but if you can, there was light up bracelets, coloring books, so much informational material for our students, which is important. These activity booklets that they got that were the coloring books really helped them to learn the healthier habits of using the walk and roll system to get to school. Learning about cleaner environments, promoting safety, obviously such as crossing the road, signs of the roadways, the importance of wearing helmets. Sometimes I know our students do forget that, so it goes very in depth into it, and it's fun. It's coloring book, it's age appropriate, and they were all able to get them when they arrived to school that day. In future planning, we would like to figure out how they could maybe get them before. So they were able to wear the light up bracelets during their ride. So they were able to, get these activities going in the coloring books. It would just be helpful to do that beforehand. So we're just learning as we go as well. But these materials were fun, and kids remembered it this October from last year. They were like, the bracelets, we really want them. So it was sweet for them to remember. And then they were all wearing them throughout the day. So again, a community builder, it brought everyone together, which was nice. Next slide. So here's some of our pictures from that day. This is a mixture of last spring and this fall. So of course there's the quote, my son usually does not want to get up in the morning, but today he popped right up. He was so excited to ride his bike to school. So this was fun. This was different for kids. You know, it gave them something to look forward to, and it created, again, community. We have, you know, the picture of a group of students where there's about 7 students. That group all walked to school together, and that was the same group that did it the year prior. And with that, you know, there was a lot of coordination with families. Families had to communicate with one another. And it really just brought the sense of community to our kids. And, you know, there's the student on the bike. We had students bike riding to school, and with that bike, we also have a bike rack. So that was something that was installed just before our walk and roll to school last spring. And I believe it holds about 6 bikes. So we had students able to lock them up. And for students with overflow, our main entryway is pretty big. So students were able to safely leave them in there. So they were kept safe throughout the day if they couldn't be locked up. Same with the scooters, roller skates, roller blades. So it was just nice that students were able to choose which method they wanted to use and to get to school if they had a bike or roller skates, roller blades. Next slide. So when we talk about student achievement, skill development, again, these are the materials that are given out. There are a couple more. There were the stickers as well. But with these promotional materials, you know, it reinforces the safe behaviors on the road. It's teaching our students about the independent skills, how to manage themselves, their bodies on the road. So they're not, and they're able to be proud of themselves, you know, when they do it, when the kids are able to participate and use their wheels and their feet to walk to school. That's an accomplishment. That's something that's new and exciting to them. And I think they find pride in that. Next slide. So here's where I'll talk about our students that were able to participate if they were not able to walk or roll to school just due to family work schedules or the distance they were from Paige. So when we talk about equitable systems, we did a lot of communication with our transportation department to let them know this date we are having a walk and roll. Please drop our students off at our back parking lot. And then students would then follow a pathway with music that they could listen to outside to essentially walk around our building so they could still participate. Because there are circumstances where students just don't have a bike, they don't have a scooter, and we don't want to leave them out. We want to make sure that everyone can be included. So that was really important to us. We have around 420 students, and we were able to ensure that all 420 participated in the event. For students, you know, that did meet one another while doing the walking and rolling, like the students in the groups, you'll see there, you know, a parent made a sign, they had balloons. This really encouraged a community, and to us at Paige, that's really important. It got parents talking to one another. You know, parents trusted other parents. They dropped them off at their meeting spot because they had to get to work, and maybe they exchanged numbers and said, let me know when, you know, my son or daughter or, you know, my child gets to school. So that really did build community, which is really important to us. And it got people closer, it got kids closer. Kids were then able to meet other kids in the neighborhood that they may not have known where they lived, or they just knew that they rode their bus, but they didn't know anything else. So that was the nice part. It got our kids communicating with one another more, it got our families talking more. And this was just a small picture. Next slide, you'll see a bigger picture. You can go ahead to that. So there we had a lot of family involvement for these guys on this route. And I think that's the most important. Like, family involvement makes for students involvement. If families get excited and they're aware and they're informed on what's going on that day, they can then hype their own children up to get excited about it. And Rima, if you just want to play the short clip, it just shows a little bit of the kids riding their bike. And I think throughout this, you know, parents and family members are able to teach their kids, ride on this side of the road. We're going to walk on this side of the road. Just being mindful of their surroundings. I think it's all very teachable moments, and we're very thankful for the families that were able to lead those routes, because they helped with our kids. They were their little teachers that morning, and I think that's really important. And the families were really excited when they got to school. It was an accomplishment for them too. They were able to do this with their kids, and it was special, and it's something that I think their kids will remember for a long time. And so we had 2 separate locations, depending on where our students reside. We had one parent meet them at, one end of where our district is, our school zone is, and then the other at the other end. So we made it as accessible as we could. Going forward, we would love it if there could be more routes. But we were just working with the family involvement that we had. And it was nice that we were able to have 2, because that accommodated even more people. So when you send those surveys out, it's important to try to get those family involvement, to help in your route creation. And they would know their routes best. Go ahead. So to wrap up, just 3 C's for successful walk and roll. Communication. This event involved a lot of communication on all ends. It involves communication for our teachers, letting them know that, that morning buses were going to be going to our back lot where everyone parks. So just be mindful of that going forward. Communication with families, letting them know all the details ahead of time and how to keep them and their children safe. Communication for the families that were not able to participate necessarily in the walk and roll, but letting them know their child is still able to do this, regardless if they have a bike or not. So I think that's important. Collaboration, we had to collaborate with a lot of people, a lot of families, our community, our police department, our safety team. I think there's just so much collaboration to make sure that it's a successful event. And with the creativity, I would see this in 2 ways. We had to get creative to promote the event by use of our social media, our dojo, ways to inform our families how to get creative so they were just as excited about it. And then our students were able to get creative with the mode that they got to school. They were able, if they could, to choose what wheels they wanted to take, or if they weren't able to, they could still get creative and walk to school from getting off the bus in our back lot and dancing their way up to the front door. I think they had a lot of fun doing it. And I think we're excited to plan the next one for the spring. We'll just have to make sure we have good dates available and good weather, and we'll be right on it. So we're excited for it.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. We do have a few minutes for questions. If anybody has questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and I can read them off. But meanwhile, Emily, I had a question for you, which is hold on just a second. Let me get this, stop sharing. So the parent involvement, you said that you're going to be working on sort of doing more like different survey outreach, or that you would be doing a different sort of survey outreach in the future. Like, do you know what that might look like?
So I think I think we would still keep with the Google form that we did. I think of the last Google form, I'll be honest, I think there was a lot of questions on there, and I think that might be overwhelming to some families, like answering all of these questions. I think our biggest thing is getting the family involvement. So just ways to promote the actual form going out. So we recently did a school survey. Parents truly enjoy getting text messages as their way of being informed. So we did that last year. We didn't send this form out through text. So that's something that we'll definitely keep in mind this year if that's what parents are checking. If they're not checking Facebook, if they're not checking our website, or if they're not checking Instagram, let's text them. Let's make it easiest for them to receive this information.
Okay. And are you, I believe you said that you would be willing to be like post your contact information and be available for questions for, you know, other schools or, you know, PTO members or whatever, if they're interested in organizing something at their own school to act as a resource for them?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. It looks like we have a question. Dr. JP asked, what was the highlight for you during the event and what would you like to try differently next time?
I would say the highlight was seeing the kids get excited. I mean, just like that quote from that parent, like that their child was excited to get up in the morning because this was new for them. This was exciting. I think that would be a highlight, is just seeing their faces when they get off of their bikes or when they finally get here to school after walking. You know, I thought some would be a little more tired than excited, but they were really excited. And going forward, I think something I would do differently next time, just making sure we cross-check like the dates of everything. So this fall we had less of a turnout than the spring because we did do our walk and roll on picture day. And I understand why people wouldn't want to put a helmet on, you know, if they just did their hair, you know, anything special like that. Didn't want to get their dress dirty. So I think just making sure we really check our dates. And as schools, there's always events going on. So things get busy, but just making sure we're planning ahead next time that we do that.
Okay. Got another question. Mostly a comment. Alex Torres commented, Mr. Steve Legero, who's an ENL teacher from Oneida, fixes old bikes and repurposes them for students in need of bikes.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, that is good to know. Yeah, you know, it's there's a lot of sort of activities going on, sort of like pockets of bike related activities going on all over the place. But that's a good one to know. So thank you for that, Mr. Torres. Any other questions or comments? Now we can, you know, there's other opportunities later too. We can come back if you have any other thoughts, we can follow up later as well. But meanwhile, we can move on to the rest of the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the 2023 Bike Safety Training Program through the Capital District Transportation Committee. This is a grant program, and the deadline for this next year is at the end of this month, November 30th. This is a screenshot of the our Capital Coexist webpage of the CDTC website. Just to kind of point you in the direction of where you can find details of this grant application. The guidelines and application is located right here. So just a little bit about it. Probably this crowd is going to be most interested in the youth bike rodeo type portion of this grant program. So it's geared mostly towards 5 to 11-year-olds. And it offers $400 for safety gear giveaways, so like bike helmets and other types of safety gear in conjunction with the safety training event, and then $50 for things like water and snacks for the safety event. And the event would be structured based on the League of American Bicyclists youth bicycle training, safety training, which is designed around these like stations. So there's like a bike helmet fitting station, and then these various bike training and safety training stations that teach kids safety drills and rules of the road training, and then other fun stuff like snail races and things like that. And the idea is that we would bring in a league cyclist instructor who's a certified bicycle safety instructor. And him or her would work with a team of like your school staff or volunteers to work with the kids to move through these like safety training stations to improve their bike safety and bike handling skills. And then the other portion of the grant program is for adult training, so 14 years and up. So really geared towards sort of high school students and adults, excuse me, and it would be really classroom as well as on-road training based, 8 to 9 hours of training in total. And it would be learning to ride legally and safely on the road and on trail. And it would teach basic bike maintenance, like learning to change a tire and do like a bike safety check. And crash avoidance techniques. And it would also be taught by a league cyclist instructor. And if you have any questions about this grant program, feel free to get in touch with me. My contact information is at the end of these slides. And it's also posted on the guidelines that you can find on the website. So the Walk and Roll to School Toolkit, this is something we developed last spring. So it's basically a summary that walks you through sort of step-by-step how to put together a walk and roll to school event. Basically a little bit more detail of the process that Emily just went through or just described. It includes event ideas. It has a sample timeline, which I screenshotted here. Includes first-time organizer tips and outreach tools. It includes newsletter templates, backpack letter templates, email templates, and also talking points. So when you're trying to engage with parents, local municipal leaders, the media, your police department, explaining, what kind of event that you're trying to hold and why, you can, have those talking points handy and ready to go. And the toolkit is also available on the Capital Coexist website as well, sort of in this same category here. All right, so the bicycle and pedestrian safety materials. We've been offering a set of bicycle and pedestrian safety materials, sort of giveaways for several years now. It's been a combination of sort of print materials like tip cards and information like summaries on like the pedestrian and bicycle laws, sort of safety posters and things like that, as well as coloring books like the coloring book that Emily talked about, as well as sort of safety lights and other sort of like small giveaway items that are safety related. This year we're working on updating our offerings, and these types of giveaways are good for so things like if you're holding a safety or health fair, if you're holding a bike rodeo, if you're doing any sort of class activity that's related to bicycle or pedestrian safety or traffic safety, if you're holding an assembly, you can go on to our website, go to the order form and request some materials. So just a little bit about the items that we're working on or considering offering, I wanted to give a little preview of what we're working on, possibly offering for next year. There's some things in this mix that we had, that we have been offering that we're going to be offering again. And there's some things that are likely going to be offered next year, but it's not quite finalized, but I wanted to give a little sneak peek on what might be coming down the pipe. So there's the Getting There activity book that Emily mentioned. It's a coloring and activity book for 5, and these ages are approximate, about 5 to 9 years old. And then there's a coloring book that we found that we are likely going to be offering next year for a slightly younger set. Then there's the oldie but goodie Sprocket Man comic book for older kids, like middle, high school, even college kids or students, I should say. Then we're considering some other safety giveaways, like reflective slap bracelets or anklets that are good for pedestrians and even bicyclists. Like they're good for putting on your ankle to hold back your pant leg when you're bicycling, so that it doesn't get caught in your bicycle chain. Bike bells, rapid bike lights to use as a headlight. We're looking at maybe offering child safety vests again. We have some reflective helmet stickers that we are going to be offering next year, and looking at reflective tags. So those are some things that we're working on, but the offerings are going to be finalized and ready to go in time for the spring bike ped season. So look out for that. Some other, some other resources that we have available on the Capitol Codes webpage. Located here is we've added some K through 12 classroom curricula resources. It was indicated that there might be some interest in that in the school community. So we went out and tried to find some resources that might be helpful. A couple of items, some classroom activities. There was a middle and high school bicycle safety curriculum for PE teachers. And there's also this really great resource that was a pretty extensive, comprehensive sort of collection, like a summary of many, many different curricula of bicycle and pedestrian curricula of many different types. And it was summarized and hyperlinked. So if you're looking for something in particular, this would be a really good resource to access because it has many, many different types. So it would be good, a good resource to look at. So those are the resources that we have this year in a nutshell. And we do have a few minutes for questions or comments. And here is our Emily's and mine contact information. You're more than welcome to reach out to either of us for questions or guidance as you develop your programs for the coming season. And it looks like we have another comment. So just a comment. Love the information regarding bike safety training program. This is a compliment to Mrs. McDonald. Mr. Principal JP says that Mrs. McDonald is humble, but having an individual who understands the school's vision and can use a supportive approach to collaboration and communication with all stakeholders to foster a positive climate and culture is key in order to having a successful walk and roll. Yes, you need to have a champion, definitely. Thank you. So I think we should be able to raise hands as well. If anybody would like to raise hands, I think I should be able to unmute you if you want to ask a question that way as well. So I'm really looking forward to Walk and Roll this next year. I feel like, you know, getting out of COVID and getting back into the swing of things, you know, was just, you know, things that are just taking off more and more, you know, things have, I feel like things are starting to normalize a little bit more. And so hopefully, hopefully there'll be more, you know, more schools interested in doing walk and rolls. And Charles Cotto says, great job, Paige, leading the way. So if there's no other questions, we can stop early. Oh, I see a hand up. So Mr. Torres, you can go ahead and, Alex Torres. Alex Torres, you should be able to unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. Or you can put it in the chat if you're having trouble unmuting yourself. Okay. Alex, if you still have a question, you, feel free to follow up with us. Our contact information. Oh, there you are.
There's no question.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, then I'll have a sign off. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending our information session today. And again, if you have any other questions or follow-up issues that you would like any assistance with for future walk and roll events or anything related to bike ped, please feel free to reach out to Capital District Transportation Committee and we'd be happy to assist. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye. And thanks again to Emily for participating today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.